Average is crowded, ordinary is noisy, and most people will stay exactly where they are for the rest of their lives, not because they are stupid, not because they lack talent, not because they were born in the wrong place, but because they lack discipline, because they react instead of respond, because they chase comfort instead of strength. And while the world keeps rewarding noise, shortcuts, and quick pleasure, there is an ancient system that quietly builds unshakable power. A system practiced by a slave who became a respected teacher, by a wealthy statesman who prepared for exile, and by a Roman emperor who ruled during war and plague. That system is Stoicism, and it does not promise hype. It promises control. It does not promise motivation. It demands discipline. These 5 Stoic habits separate leaders from followers. Master them, and you quietly move ahead of 99% of people without announcing it, without showing off, and without waiting for permission. Centuries ago, in the middle of chaos and political corruption, Marcus Aurelius wrote private notes to himself while leading the most powerful empire on earth. He did not write about luxury. He did not write about ego. He wrote reminders about patience, self-control, and duty. Around the same time, Epictetus, once born into slavery, taught that true freedom begins in the mind, not in external status. And Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, practiced voluntary discomfort to prepare himself for loss. These men lived in brutal times, wars, betrayals, executions, uncertainty. Yet their writings survived for over 2,000 years because they understood something modern society keeps forgetting. The real advantage in life is inner control. In this video, you will learn 5 specific Stoic habits that build that control, not theory, not quotes for social media. Real habits you can practice daily. You will understand why controlling your reactions gives you more power than controlling outcomes. You will learn why doing hard things on purpose builds mental armor that comfort can never provide. You will see how negative visualization reduces fear instead of increasing it. You will discover why speaking less and observing more increases influence. And you will understand how detaching from praise and criticism makes you emotionally untouchable. Each habit is simple, but simple does not mean easy. That is why almost no one practices them consistently. There is a reason most people stay average. They wait. They wait to feel ready. They wait to feel confident. They wait for the perfect time. Stoicism destroys that waiting mindset. It replaces it with action, with responsibility, with discipline that does not depend on mood. And here is the uncomfortable truth. The world does not reward potential. It rewards execution. It rewards consistency. It rewards those who can stay calm when others panic and stay focused when others quit. These habits train exactly that. You will also hear lesser-known insights from Stoic practice that rarely get discussed. For example, many Stoics rehearsed poverty while being wealthy so that fear of loss would never control them. Roman generals reminded themselves of death during victory parades so pride would not corrupt them. Leaders kept journals not for fame, but to correct their own thinking. This philosophy was not passive. It was strategic. It was mental warfare against weakness within. And that is why it still applies today in business, relationships, fitness, and personal growth. By the end of this video, you will not just understand Stoicism. You will see how to apply it starting today. You will know exactly which mental habits are keeping most people stuck. And you will see how small daily discipline compounds into massive long-term advantage. This is not about becoming emotionless. It is about becoming stable. It is not about ignoring ambition. It is about strengthening character so ambition does not destroy you. If you stay until the end, you will walk away with a blueprint that has survived empires, crises, and centuries of change. And once you internalize it, you will start noticing the difference immediately in how you respond, in how you think, in how others react to you. So if you are tired of being distracted, tired of reacting emotionally, tired of watching others move forward while you stay in the same place, then this is where the shift begins. Not with motivation, with discipline, not with noise, with clarity. Welcome to our channel, where we break down powerful ideas into practical action. If you are serious about building mental strength and staying ahead in a world that rewards weakness, subscribe now and join us. Let's begin. Most people do not fall behind because they lack intelligence. They fall behind because they lack control. They wake up and immediately react. React to messages, react to news, react to opinions, react to problems. Their emotions decide their day before their mind even gets a chance. When something small goes wrong, their mood collapses. When someone criticizes them, their confidence drops. When life becomes uncomfortable, they search for escape. This is normal behavior. It is common. It is accepted, and that is exactly why it keeps people average. People react emotionally. They seek comfort at every chance. They avoid discomfort like it is danger. They chase validation from friends, from social media, from co-workers. They measure their worth by approval. And when progress feels slow, they blame circumstances. They blame the economy. They blame their background. They blame other people. Blame feels good in the moment because it removes responsibility, but it also removes power. The truth is simple. If you believe everything outside you controls your life, you will never feel in control. That mindset keeps people stuck for years without them even realizing it. Centuries ago, while leading Rome during war and crisis, Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders to himself about patience and self-discipline. He ruled an empire, yet he reminded himself not to be disturbed by insults or praise. That is power. Around the same time, Epictetus taught students that some things are up to us and some things are not. He had once been enslaved. He knew suffering, yet he insisted that no one could control his inner response without his permission. That is freedom. Stoics focused only on what they could control. Most people focus on what they cannot. This single difference explains why some individuals rise steadily while others stay in the same place. When your energy goes toward complaining, worrying, and reacting, you drain yourself. When your energy goes toward discipline, effort, and controlled action, you build momentum. That is the shift. That is the separation. And it begins with the first habit. Let's break down the 5 habits. The first habit is simple but powerful. Control what you can. Ignore the rest. This idea comes directly from Epictetus. You cannot control opinions. Someone will misunderstand you. Someone will dislike you. You cannot control the economy. Markets rise and fall. Opportunities shift. You cannot control other people. Their choices are theirs. Trying to control these things creates frustration. Frustration creates anger. Anger destroys focus. But there are things you control completely. Your effort, your discipline, your reaction. You choose whether to wake up when the alarm rings. You choose whether to finish the task. You choose how to respond to insult. Emotional control equals power, because it protects your energy. When someone criticizes you and you react instantly, they control your mood. When you pause and choose your response, you control the situation. That pause is strength. Most people never pause. They fire back. They defend. They argue. They explain. And in doing so, they waste time and energy that could have been used for progress. Think about how much mental space is lost every day to things outside your control. News cycles, gossip, online debates, other people's success. All of it pulls attention away from your own growth. The Stoic approach is direct. Pause before reacting. Ask one question: is this in my control? If the answer is no, let it go. If the answer is yes, act with discipline. This question alone filters out most unnecessary stress. It simplifies life. It strengthens focus. Over time, this habit changes your identity. You stop being reactive. You become intentional. While others panic about events they cannot influence, you continue working on what you can improve. Most people waste energy daily. You conserve it, and conserved energy becomes progress. That is why this habit alone puts you ahead. The second habit builds on the first. Do hard things daily. Stoics did not wait for hardship to arrive. They trained for it. They practiced discomfort on purpose. Cold exposure, simple food, sleeping without luxury. Not because they hated comfort, but because they refused to be controlled by it. Seneca, one of the wealthiest men in Rome, sometimes wore plain clothing and ate basic meals to remind himself that he could survive without excess. This practice removed fear of loss. Today, comfort surrounds us. Easy entertainment, instant food, endless distraction. Comfort feels harmless, but too much comfort weakens discipline. It lowers tolerance for stress. It reduces resilience. The moment life becomes difficult, most people collapse because they are not trained for difficulty. Discomfort builds strength. It builds patience. It builds confidence. Doing hard things daily does not require extreme actions. It requires consistency. Wake up early even when your body resists. Exercise even when motivation is low. Work on your goals even when you feel bored. Finish what you start. Each small act of discipline strengthens your mental muscle. At first, it feels uncomfortable. That is the point. Discomfort signals growth. Over time, hard tasks feel normal. What once required effort becomes routine. Discipline compounds quietly. A single disciplined morning may not change your life, but disciplined mornings repeated for years create massive difference. Most people quit when it gets uncomfortable. They stop when excitement fades. They wait for motivation to return. But motivation is unstable. Discipline is stable. Discipline is stable. When you train yourself to act regardless of mood, you separate from the average mindset. Notice how many opportunities are lost because someone felt tired, discouraged, or distracted. Feelings shift every hour. If your actions depend on feelings, your results will be inconsistent. The Stoic mindset removes this weakness. You act because it is your duty, not because it feels good. Over time, this builds quiet confidence. You begin to trust yourself. You know that when something must be done, you will do it. That trust is powerful. It eliminates internal doubt, and while others are negotiating with their excuses, you are moving forward. Hard things done daily. Create an identity of strength. That identity changes how you walk, how you speak, how you think. It builds momentum that others notice but cannot explain. The third habit strengthens emotional stability even further. Practice negative visualization. This sounds dark, but it is practical. Instead of assuming everything will remain stable, you briefly consider loss. Imagine losing what you have. Your job, your comfort, your status. Imagine failure. Imagine hardship. Not to create anxiety, but to prepare the mind. When you occasionally reflect on possible difficulties, you reduce their power over you. Fear often grows from uncertainty. When you mentally rehearse loss, uncertainty decreases. You realize you could survive more than you think. This builds calm. It builds gratitude. You appreciate what you currently have because you understand it is not guaranteed. Most people avoid thinking about pain. They distract themselves. They live as if stability is permanent. When disruption comes, they are shocked. Shock creates panic. Panic destroys clarity. The Stoic approach removes shock. If you have already considered possible challenges, you respond with strategy instead of emotion. Negative visualization also removes entitlement. You stop assuming success is owed to you. You treat every advantage as temporary and valuable, that mindset sharpens focus. It increases effort, it reduces complacency, and it makes you resilient when change arrives. Prepared minds stay calm under pressure. Calm creates better decisions. Better decisions create better outcomes. While others are overwhelmed by unexpected problems, you adapt, you adjust, you continue. This is not pessimism. It is preparation. It is mental training for reality. Life changes. Markets shift. People leave. Health fluctuates. When you accept this truth in advance, you are not broken by it later. Instead of being controlled by fear of loss, you act boldly because you know you can endure difficulty. That endurance becomes an advantage. As these habits connect, a pattern appears. Emotional reaction weakens progress. Controlled response strengthens it. Comfort weakens discipline. Discomfort strengthens it. Illusion weakens stability. Preparation strengthens it. Most people stay behind because they choose the easy reaction. They choose comfort. They choose distraction. They choose blame. The Stoic path is different. It is quieter. It is harder at first, but it builds internal structure that cannot be easily shaken. Each time you pause, instead of reacting, you gain power. Each time you do what is hard, instead of what is easy, you gain strength. Each time you prepare for loss, instead of denying it, you gain stability. And as these gains repeat daily, the gap between you and the average mindset widens, naturally without noise or announcement. The fourth habit is quiet, but it changes everything. Speak less. Observe more. Most people talk to impress. They talk to prove intelligence. They talk to defend their ego. They talk because silence feels uncomfortable. In conversations, they wait for their turn to speak instead of truly listening. They interrupt. They overshare. They explain too much. And without realizing it, they reduce their own authority. Words are powerful, but too many words weaken impact. Stoic restraint teaches control not only over actions, but over speech. Marcus Aurelius wrote reminders to himself about guarding his tongue and avoiding useless talk. He understood that speech reveals character. Every unnecessary reaction exposes insecurity. Every attempt to impress reveals a need for approval. Strong people do not rush to fill silence. They are comfortable with it. Silence increases authority because it creates presence. When you speak less, people pay more attention. When you finally do speak, your words carry weight. They feel intentional. Observation increases intelligence because it gives you information others miss. When you are not busy speaking, you notice patterns, you see body language, you detect tone shifts, you understand group dynamics, you recognize who leads and who follows, you observe mistakes others make repeatedly. This awareness becomes strategy. Most people reveal their plans, their fears and their weaknesses through careless speech. The quiet observer learns without exposing himself. In meetings, the loudest person often appears confident, but the quiet one is often calculating. The Stoic chooses to calculate. When you observe more than you speak, you gather data. Data improves decisions. Better decisions improve outcomes. There is also emotional discipline in silence. When insulted, most people respond instantly. They defend their pride. They try to win the exchange, but reacting immediately gives control to the other person. Silence in that moment is power. It shows that your emotions are not easily triggered. It unsettles those who expect drama. It protects your focus. This does not mean you never speak. It means you speak with purpose. You respond when necessary, not when provoked. That difference is maturity. That difference is strength. Speaking less also forces you to think more. Before you talk, you analyze. Is this useful? Is this necessary? Is this true? Many problems begin with careless words. Arguments escalate because of ego-driven replies. Relationships weaken because of uncontrolled statements. Careers stall because of impulsive comments. The disciplined speaker avoids these traps. Over time, this builds reputation. People see you as thoughtful, calm, strategic. They trust your judgment because you do not waste words, and trust is influence. When you observe more, you also learn faster. Every room becomes a classroom. Every interaction becomes a lesson. You study what works and what fails. You notice how successful people handle pressure. You notice how unsuccessful people sabotage themselves. You adjust quietly. While others repeat mistakes, you refine your approach. This silent refinement compounds. You react smarter because you have more awareness. You respond strategically because you have more information. You avoid unnecessary conflict because you see it forming before it explodes. Silence also strengthens self-control. It is easy to speak when emotional. It is difficult to remain composed. That difficulty is training. Each time you choose restraint, you strengthen discipline. This discipline spreads into other areas of life. You become less impulsive, less reactive, more stable, and stability is rare. In a world filled with noise, the quiet individual stands out. Not through volume, but through presence. People feel the difference, even if they cannot explain it. Now consider how this connects to the fifth habit. Detach from praise and criticism. If praise controls you, criticism will destroy you. Most people are addicted to approval. They feel high when complimented. They feel crushed when judged. Their mood depends on other people's opinions. That is emotional dependence, and dependence is weakness. Emotional independence means your self-worth does not rise and fall with applause or insult. It remains steady because it is built on principles, not reactions. Praise feels good, that is natural, but when you begin to chase it, you change your behavior to receive it, you adjust your values. You say what people want to hear. You act in ways that attract approval. Slowly, you stop being guided by discipline and start being guided by validation. This weakens character. The Stoic refuses this trap. He does not reject praise angrily. He simply does not rely on it. He appreciates it, but he does not depend on it. The same applies to criticism. Not all criticism is useless. Some is valuable. Some reveals blind spots. But emotional reaction to criticism clouds judgment. When insulted, most people feel immediate defense. Their ego feels attacked. They argue, they justify, they explain, and in doing so they give power to the critic. Emotional independence changes this dynamic. You evaluate criticism calmly. If it is true, you adjust. If it is false, you ignore it. There is no emotional collapse, no dramatic response, just analysis. This is strength. The lion does not turn around when small dogs bark. That mentality is not arrogance, it is focus. The lion knows its power. It does not need to prove it to every noise in the distance. When you detach from praise and criticism, you move through life with the same focus. You stop reacting to every opinion. You stop explaining yourself to everyone. You continue building quietly. Most people live for approval. They measure success by likes, comments, compliments, and social recognition. When approval increases, they feel worthy. When it decreases, they feel insecure. This cycle keeps them emotionally unstable. Stoics live by principles. Principles do not fluctuate daily. They remain constant. Discipline, integrity, responsibility. When your actions align with your principles, you do not need external validation. You know whether you acted correctly. That inner clarity replaces the need for applause. Detaching from praise also protects long-term vision. When you seek approval, you choose short-term popularity over long-term growth. You avoid difficult decisions because they may upset people. You soften your stance to avoid criticism. Over time, this weakens leadership. True progress often requires unpopular choices. Emotional independence allows you to make them without fear. You accept that not everyone will agree. You accept that misunderstanding is part of growth. This acceptance frees you from hesitation. Criticism becomes less threatening when you understand that opinions reflect the perspective of the speaker, not your identity. People judge based on their experiences, fears, and insecurities. When you internalize this, their words lose emotional weight. You still listen. You still evaluate. But you do not absorb negativity. This protects mental energy, and protected energy fuels progress. There is also calm confidence in detachment. When praised, you remain grounded. When criticized, you remain stable. This consistency confuses people who expect dramatic reactions. They may try harder to provoke you. They may increase praise to manipulate you. But when you are steady, manipulation fails. You become predictable in the best way. Disciplined, focused, unshaken. As you combine these two habits, speak less and detach emotionally, a new identity forms. You are no longer driven by impulse or approval. You move with intention. You observe more than you announce. You act based on principle rather than praise. This creates quiet power. Others may not understand it immediately. They may even misinterpret your silence as weakness. But over time, results speak. Stability speaks. Discipline speaks. In conversations, you listen deeply. You respond briefly. You do not compete for attention. You conserve energy. In public spaces, you do not chase validation. You remain centered. When criticized unfairly, you remain calm. When complimented excessively, you remain humble. This balance builds respect. Not the loud respect of hype, but the steady respect of reliability. Emotional independence also improves decision-making. When fear of criticism disappears, you choose based on logic and values. When addiction to praise disappears, you choose based on long-term benefit rather than short-term approval. This improves career moves, relationships, and personal goals. You stop living to impress. You start living to improve. Many people never reach this level because they are trapped in emotional reactions. They speak too quickly. They defend too often. They celebrate praise too loudly. They suffer criticism too deeply. This constant fluctuation drains them. The Stoic path stabilizes the mind, and a stable mind sees clearly. Clear vision leads to precise action. Precise action builds consistent results. Silence trains awareness. Detachment trains resilience. Together they build authority. Not forced authority. Not loud authority. Natural authority. The kind that does not need to announce itself. The kind that grows from self-control. And as this self-control strengthens daily, the gap between you and the average mindset continues to widen quietly, without noise, without drama, without seeking permission, while others remain trapped in cycles of reaction and validation. Now look at the shift that just happened. You moved from emotional to controlled, from lazy to disciplined, from reactive to strategic, from insecure to self-contained. That is not a small change. That is a complete identity upgrade, and it does not require talent. It does not require luck. It does not require a perfect background. It requires one thing: consistency. You don't need to be extraordinary. You need to be consistent. You don't need to dominate everyone. You need to dominate yourself. And consistency alone puts you ahead of 99% of people, because most people quit. Most people react. Most people chase comfort. But while others chase comfort, you build strength. This is where the real separation begins. Not tomorrow, not next year. Today, one controlled reaction, one hard task completed, one moment of silence instead of argument, One decision based on principle instead of approval. Small actions, repeated daily. That is how ordinary people become uncommon. That is how quiet discipline turns into visible power. And if you apply even one of these habits, starting now, your mindset will begin to shift immediately. In the next video, we will go even deeper into Stoic power and mental toughness. We will break down how to stay calm under pressure when everyone else collapses. So if you are serious about building real inner strength, make sure you are part of this journey. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what's coming next. Like this video if it challenged your thinking, share it with someone who needs discipline more than motivation, and start today. Because while most people stay average by choice, you don't have to.